I returned home. I had a lot to think about and do a bit of research. I found an old book on the history of the area. Just as I had done with the grilled cheese operation, I searched for anything pertaining to mysterious deaths in the area. It offered nothing of interest to me. I found Emily fast asleep on the dining room floor. I retrieved her and gave her a little bit of a snack. She does enjoy her formula, I must say. Mrs. Pennybiggles is very proficient in the preparation of her meals for Emily. There's always a bottle in the fridge ready for her, and we equally took part in feeding her new flavors of food. Some she adored, some she made known were not to her liking. After a brief bonding together, we went to sit and watch the telly, on the young ones programming channel for Emily's entertainment. Another dead body had been found in the hills. It was a young woman, mid-20s I would say. She had been savagely attacked, perhaps with surgical precision. I noticed the body's condition. It was recent, by the look of the blood pattern, but the cause of her demise was not readily available. The detectives and I proposed several theories about the case. Was this a random attack? I doubted it. It had all the earmarks of the slasher. Had she been there long? No, her body was still, as we say, fresh. I instructed the patrol detectives to have her sent to the morgue for analysis. As he was about to comply, he abruptly received a notification of a second body that had been found in the desert area. He exclaimed with a forceful tone that this had to come to an end. Too many of our fellow Sims had met a similar fate. Was there nothing we could do to stop this? I arrived at the scene and scrutinized the body. This was indeed a strange one. The body appeared to have been dead for quite a while, yet she seemed to have not been noticed. Her state was indeed in an advanced condition of decomposition, and I again sent her to be examined by the medical pathology at the morgue. I decided that I should make my way to the coroner's office for a bit of first-hand discovery. Was this a new twist to the case? Was this even related to the other deaths? I would soon find out. I went to the coroner's office to request a hasty ruling be carried out on the two deceased women sent to him. We went directly to the examination room. I observed previous victims' remains. One in particular seemed quite extraordinary. The skeletal remains showed strange bone deformities. It seems as if there had been a bit of manipulation of the skeleton. Again, curious. I went to the staff and inquired about the corpse. The staff were at a loss to explain the condition of the bones. They had been discovered in the desert area in a shallow grave, unlike the other bodies in plain view. There were no textbook examples for them to compare it to, but it appeared to be in an advanced decomposition of some sort. Curious indeed. I returned to the state investigative headquarters to report the recent findings to the director. I made my way through the expansive building to his office. He was not to be found, but his office assistant was there, and I sat down to use his computer. She asked me not to, as he was still signed in with his passcode. But I needed to see some information only he might have access to. I soon discovered that, rather ominously, several other bodies had been unearthed. They were all deemed to have been buried for a time, as they were either badly decomposed or in a skeletal state when found. They were not considered viable to investigate at the local level. Why would the state prepare the reports of these findings only to bury them from the local jurisdictions? It seemed quite to the contrary not to divulge this to our local municipalities. I went back to the station. I cross-referenced the locations of the known slasher victims when found. The map contained no mention of any other bodies, newly deceased versus those found in hastily dug graves. There was something odd about that. I then went into the local office database and found that none of the reported incidents of the unearthed corpses was ever entered for investigation by the local departments from the state office. I went for a discussion conference with my fellow officers. We all wondered why we had never been informed or been instructed to launch an investigation into any of these findings. We only were directed into investigating the freshly found victims as of late. A bit strange indeed. I asked that this new information be kept in confidence with them, and they readily agreed. I left with, I am afraid, more questions than I had anticipated. As I arrived home, I was met with a young lady in the drive. She introduced herself as a friend of Cassandra Goth, and they had met in university prior to her graduation. She heard I was working on the slasher case and wanted to give me a bit of information. She had studied forensic science, and found employment within the state coroner's office. She had been there when I arrived for my discovery of the bones in the morgue. She said she had formulated a theory about the bones, and the strange deformities on them. She had expressed her conviction that they had been surgically altered. To what end, she could not say. But the state had sacked her that afternoon after I had left the office. Why? She would give my regards to Cassandra. I left to visit Emily. It was the deputy director. He requested I meet him, and when I arrived he was waiting outside the building for me. He explained that we should talk here, so as to not succumb to the recordings made in the building. Odd. He explained that my use of the director's computer had not gone unnoticed, and the information I had found was classified. He asked for my oath of confidence. He began to explain what I had found on the computer, and what it might mean to the investigation. There was something afoot that required a delicate touch as to the media and the population of Sims. It would be quite an interesting story that would lead to a rather interesting conclusion. And so with that, we will lead to our own conclusion now. See you soon.